My name is Ethan Clark. I'm from Manchester, and I've always been fascinated by dark history, especially the kind people try to forget. That's what led me to Pendle Hill. Most people in England have at least heard of it. A quiet, eerie hill in Lancashire, known more for its haunted legends than for the view. Over 400 years ago, it was the center of one of the most infamous witch trials in British history. 12 people were accused of witchcraft, 10 were hanged. I thought it would be the perfect subject for a student documentary. Something raw, unsettling, real. I brought 2 friends with me, Josh and Liam. We'd been tight since college, and they were just as into horror and local legends as I was. We weren't planning anything reckless. Just a weekend trip to film some B-roll, record interviews, and maybe camp overnight. We wanted atmosphere. That sense of isolation, the kind of thing you can't fake. We arrived early on a Friday morning. The town below the hill was quiet, almost too quiet. A small village with stone houses, crooked signs, and old pubs that looked like they hadn't changed in a century. As we geared up for the hike, a woman in her 70s passed us near the trailhead. Her eyes locked on me. "You're not welcome up there after dark," she said. Her voice was sharp, like someone warning you about a storm you couldn't see yet. I laughed it off. So did Josh. Liam didn't say anything. The climb up Pendle Hill was harder than we expected. It wasn't steep, but there was something heavy in the air. Like the silence wasn't natural. Like we weren't supposed to be there. We reached a flat clearing just before sunset. Perfect for camping. We set up our gear and started filming. That's when Liam found it. Carved into a stone nearby was a symbol, a circle with a crude cross in the middle. It looked old, weathered, but still deep enough to feel fresh. "Witch mark," Liam whispered. "Like from the trial days." We joked about it, even took pictures, but something about it made my skin crawl. That night, just before dark, I swore I heard something, a whisper close to my ear, even though no one was near me. I turned around. Josh was laughing at something on his phone. Liam was adjusting his camera tripod, but I couldn't shake the feeling. Like something had just noticed we were there. The wind picked up just after sunset. Cold, sharp, and sudden. Like someone had opened a door to something old. We were settled around a small camping stove, making jokes to cut through the tension, but something felt wrong. I don't know how else to describe it. Liam kept glancing at the woods behind us. Josh tried to keep things light, but even he was quieter than usual. At around 9, we played back some footage we'd recorded earlier. The audio was strange, like faint static, but more layered. If you listened closely, there was something beneath the wind. A pattern, not words exactly. More like breathing. I paused the clip. "Did anyone hear this while we were filming?" Josh shrugged. Probably just the mic picking up wind. But Liam looked at me. It wasn't windy. We didn't talk about it again, not then. A few hours later, we were lying in our tents. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt like someone was watching from outside the tent, right at the edge of the clearing. I told myself it was just the local wildlife or my imagination getting ahead of me. But then something moved. Not far, just past the trees. I sat up and held my breath. Crunch! A single footstep on dry leaves, slow, deliberate. I unzipped the tent slowly and peered out with my flashlight. There was nothing there. I scanned the trees, the path, the hill. No movement, no animals, just the cold air and absolute silence. Then I saw it. Another symbol. It wasn't there before. Scratched into a tree just beyond our camp. The same circle and cross we found earlier, but deeper, angrier. Like it had been carved with force. I called out to Josh and Liam. We stood there staring at it, not sure what to say. Liam broke the silence. "This is getting weird." Josh tried to play it down. "Maybe someone local messing with us. A prank." "Middle of the night?" I asked. "In the woods?" Without making a sound. He didn't answer. Then came the smell. Like sulfur, wet earth and rotting leaves all at once. Thick and sour, like the air itself was turning. We backed away from the tree and returned to the tents. None of us slept much. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard it again. A whisper, right by my ear. Low, feminine. And this time I heard what it said. 3? By morning, the air felt different, heavier. The sky was gray, even though no rain was in the forecast. Josh kept brushing it off, just creepy vibes, but Liam wasn't talking much. I knew he felt it too. We reviewed more of the footage over breakfast. One clip, recorded just after midnight, made my blood run cold. It was filmed from the tripod camera we left facing the tree line. At first, there was nothing, just darkness, wind, and our voices faint in the distance. But then, around 2 minutes in, a figure appeared. A woman, pale skin, black dress that dragged along the ground. She didn't walk into frame. She was just there, standing at the very edge of the clearing, not moving, not blinking, just watching the camera, watching us. Then as quickly as she came, she was gone. One frame she was there, the next, nothing. Josh laughed nervously. Okay, that's gotta be fake. Glitch or something. No way, Liam whispered. That's not digital artifacting. That's real. We packed up and decided to head farther up the hill to get more shots. We were too shaken to admit it out loud, but none of us wanted to stay in the same place. Still, something followed us. We started seeing more of the carvings, on rocks, on tree bark, even faintly scratched into the side of Josh's water bottle, which had been left just outside the tent overnight. Always the same symbol. By afternoon, we reached a small stone ruin near the peak. According to locals, it was once part of a shepherd's shelter, but something felt wrong about it, like the stones themselves were humming. Liam wandered off to take photos while Josh and I set up the drone. That's when I saw it again. A shadow, tall and narrow, moved between two trees just beyond the ruin. I turned, but there was nothing. Only branches, swaying slightly as if someone had passed through seconds before. We waited for Liam to return, but he didn't come back. 10 minutes passed, then 20. We started calling for him louder and louder. Finally, from deeper in the woods, we heard him shout, "I'm here!" We ran toward the sound. But when we reached the spot, nothing. Just rocks and trees. No Liam, no footprints. Then we heard it again. A whisper. But this time it didn't say 3. It said 2. Josh went pale. I looked around wildly, my heart racing. We were no longer just camping. Something was hunting us. We searched until nightfall. No sign of Liam. No voice, no footprints, nothing. The forest had swallowed him whole. We shouted his name until our throats were raw. But the only reply we got was silence, thick and oppressive. It felt like the air itself didn't want sound to exist anymore. Eventually, we had no choice but to return to camp. Josh kept saying we'd find him in the morning. Maybe he just wandered too far and got turned around. But I saw his hands shaking when he lit the fire. We both knew something was wrong, unnatural. That night, I barely slept. I kept my flashlight in one hand, a pocket knife in the other. Every creak outside the tent made my heart stop. At one point, I heard footsteps, slow, crunching leaves, stopping just outside. I held my breath, too afraid to look. Then, they walked away. At dawn, I crawled out of the tent and saw something new. Another carving. This time it was right beside my tent, scratched deep into the dirt. The same circle and cross, but now there was a second mark beside it. A smaller circle with one slash through it. Josh saw it too. It's counting down, he said quietly. First it said 3. Now 2. He didn't even have to say what we were both thinking. I was next. We decided to search again. This time we went higher up the slope, where the woods thinned out and the sky opened above us. That's when we found the stone. It wasn't part of any ruin, just a large, flat rock set oddly upright in the middle of the clearing, like a gravestone. On its surface, more symbols. Fresh ones, deep and jagged. Josh knelt beside it and brushed away some dirt. That's when he saw the opening. A hole, narrow like a tunnel going straight down beneath the stone. Just big enough for someone to crawl into. He looked at me. "You think he's down there?" I didn't answer. Then we heard it. A scream, muffled, far below. It was Liam. We both froze. Then he screamed again, louder. Josh didn't wait. He dropped to his knees and started to crawl in. I tried to stop him, but he was already halfway inside. Then, silence. No scream, no voice. Just the sound of stone grinding. The hole was gone. The earth had sealed itself. I dug with my bare hands, nothing, solid dirt, as if it had never been there. I stood alone, staring at the place where my friend had vanished. And behind me on the rock, a new carving had appeared. One last word freshly etched, 1. I didn't move for a long time. Just stood there, staring at that word carved into the stone. 1. It didn't feel like a warning anymore. It felt like a promise. The air was dead still. Not a single bird, not a breeze. Even the trees seemed frozen, like the whole hill was holding its breath. waiting for something. I started walking without thinking. Downhill back toward camp. But nothing looked the same. The path twisted wrong. Landmarks had vanished. The clearing we had camped in, gone. Every direction looked unfamiliar. I knew I was being led somewhere. And then I saw them. 3 figures standing at the edge of the woods. Women. They wore tattered dresses that looked centuries old. Dirt-stained fabric hung off their bones like shredded curtains. One had a noose mark across her throat. Another's eyes were pitch black, no whites, no pupils. Just void. The third, I couldn't even see her face. Just a shifting blur like smoke trying to take form. I froze. They didn't speak. Didn't move. Then all at once they stepped forward. And they knew my name. One of them whispered, soft as wind through dead leaves. Ethan. The last of 3. I tried to run. My legs wouldn't respond. My whole body locked up, like I wasn't in control anymore. I could feel my heart racing, my breath choking in my throat, but I couldn't move. They circled me slowly. I heard voices. Not from them, but through them. Dozens, maybe hundreds, all whispering at once. Screams, chants, laughter, sobbing, layered and inhuman. It was like standing in the middle of every lost soul that ever died on that hill. The woman with the blurred face raised her hand, and the world went black. I woke up sometime later on the ground alone. The sun was setting. I could move again. But Josh was gone. So was the stone. The carvings, the hole, like nothing had ever happened. I stumbled my way down the hill. My phone was dead. My compass spun uselessly. I didn't know how long I walked, hours, maybe longer. But eventually I saw the road. A car stopped. A hiker pulled me inside. I must have looked like hell. I asked him to take me to the nearest hospital. Before I passed out, I looked back at the hill. The trees were still, but at the very top, silhouetted against the orange sky, 3 figures stood watching, and they didn't move. I spent 2 days in the hospital. No serious injuries, just dehydration, shock, and exhaustion. That's what the doctors said. No one could explain how I'd ended up wandering barefoot, miles from the hill with blood under my fingernails that wasn't mine. The police questioned me, of course. I told them the truth, or at least the parts I could say without sounding insane, that we were filming a documentary, that Liam disappeared, then Josh. I said I got lost trying to find them. They searched the area, helicopters, dogs, volunteers, for almost a week. They found our camp, but no sign of Liam. No sign of Josh. No bodies, no clothing, no footprints, just the remains of a burned notebook and a cracked camera lens, half buried in the dirt. They listed both of them as missing persons. I was never charged with anything. There wasn't enough evidence to prove I'd done anything wrong. But people looked at me differently after that. Like they saw something in my eyes I couldn't see. I went back to Manchester, dropped out of uni, stopped answering messages. I couldn't sleep more than a few hours at a time. Every night I heard the whispers again. Sometimes I'd wake up to scratching sounds on my bedroom walls, always in a circle, always with a single slash through the center. About a month later, I gathered the courage to check the SD card from the drone camera. I hadn't looked at it since. Most of the files were corrupted, static, glitches, frozen frames. But one clip played. It was just a few seconds. It showed Josh standing by the stone, smiling. Behind him stood Liam, or something wearing his shape. His eyes were wrong, black, empty, and behind them 3 shadows. No faces, no movement. Then the screen flickered. Words appeared. They weren't typed. They were carved into the footage itself, shaking and jagged like scratches on glass. She waits for the next 3. I don't know why I survived. Maybe they wanted a witness. Maybe they needed someone to carry the story forward. I've moved far from Lancashire. I don't go near the woods. I don't talk to strangers. I never travel alone anymore. But sometimes late at night when everything's quiet, I still hear the whisper. Not 3, not 2, not 1. This time it says, soon.